Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have a thunderstorm warning issued in the south and southwest through tomorrow, as it is going to get very lively with instability moving up from the south. We see a lot of heavy showers and thunderstorms for southern areas through to sort of central England, Wales, even into northern England perhaps through into Monday, and elsewhere we can see lots of heavy rain as we do see this more humid air mass get pushed away. So we'll have a look at the latest UKV after that of your Rome and the Icon run, looking at the risk of the thunderstorms. They do broadly agree with timings and positioning of storms and heavy areas of rain, just the exact intensities still yet to be pinpointed. Beyond that, though, as we head into next week, once the thunderstorms get pushed away through Monday, it is going to be a very unsettled spell of weather setting up. The GFS, GM, ECMWF and the ensembles today are showing really unsettled autumnal conditions to dominate much of next week. Some runs showing maybe some glimpses of high pressure in the longer term, like the GFS, but the ECMWF has been a bit mad the last couple of runs, with the last two runs producing extremely intense area of low pressure, with wind gusts well in excess of 100 miles per hour from some of these ex-hurricanes moving our way. So we will have a look at that. It is the day 10 points, so it's not likely to happen, but it is still model output, and it is looking very interesting into the long term, really quite wacky, and we will have to see how it does develop. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if I do start on the live radar, you can see there is some shower activity going on at the moment, mostly focused across parts of Wales and southwest England. Now, these are heavy, thundery showers that are decaying away, i.e. losing their intensity as they move northwards, because all the instability in Cape at the moment is really off to our south across North Wales. So these are where the thunderstorms are forming, up towards the Channel Islands, down towards northern France. They're heading northwards, losing their intensity quite slowly, because we are still in quite a warm, humid air mass, so it does sustain the systems to a certain extent, but they do lose their intensities as they move northwards. So showers around, some of them could be heavy, but we're not expecting anything too thundery today. There could be the isolated thunderstorm perhaps through the afternoon and evening, but the real massive intense thunderstorms is likely to arrive overnight into tomorrow morning, where it could be a very lively 24 to 36 hours starting tomorrow morning, with lots of storms moving in. All this instability down towards our south is all going to head northwards, and we're going to see some big activity. Further northwards, a few showers up towards Scotland and northern England, up towards the northeast, but nothing too much going on. Elsewhere, especially to the east of these showers in the south and the west, it's a pretty warm day today. Temperatures could peak at the 27 or 28 degree mark. Now, I'm recording this a little bit before midday, so we're not reaching the peak temperatures for another couple of hours, but you can see the big temperature contrast, really quite warm, humid condition across the southeast. Already here, probably around the 23 or 24 degree mark, and I said peaking a couple of degrees higher than that. But further northwards and westwards, for much of Scotland, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, it's a much fresher Atlantic air mass. The warm, humid air never made its way that far northwards and westwards, and this temperature contrast, that is what's going to fuel some of the rainfall over the next couple of days. We're going to see low pressure moving in from the west, colliding with the hot and humid air, which also would have contained some big thunderstorms around. It's going to create a big mishmash of heavy rain over the course of the next couple of days. Again, doesn't make much sense me saying it, but when we'll see the charts in a minute, you'll be able to see what I mean by a big mishmash of rainfall from colliding weather fronts and thunderstorms. Now, if you go over to the weather warnings, you can see that we've got this thunderstorm warning issued for southern and southwestern areas tomorrow, so much of South Wales and pretty much all of southwest England. Now, from the looks of the latest runs, I'm surprised this hasn't been extended further eastwards. I definitely do think the highest risk is where the warning is at the moment. Looks like a big Pac-Man there, actually, the warning. But further eastwards, the risk isn't as high, and there is uncertainty of the exact severity, but I do think it probably does warrant a precautionary warning there, especially for the afternoon, because there will be an initial line of thunderstorms moving through in the morning, and in the afternoon there could be more isolated, scattered storms breaking out, perhaps developing into multi-celled areas, but the main bulk of rainfall will be in the morning into the early afternoon. So that's why I think this warning is issued for. So I'm surprised we haven't seen another warning issued further eastwards, but perhaps that could come later today into tomorrow when more data is available. Because it's from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m, heavy showers and thunderstorms may lead to some localised flooding and disruption to travel. Again, heavy showers and storms expected to move northwards during Sunday. Some torrential downpours are possible, with 50 to 70 millimetres of rainfall accumulating in a few places, potentially also falling only a few hours. Although many areas will miss the worst, lightning, hail and gusty winds are also possible hazards. You can see high impact, low likelihood. Again, some of the runs have got some real intense rainfall, others more just have heavy rain with some embedded thunderstorms or some decaying thunderstorms up from the south. There still is quite a bit of uncertainty with that. Now if we go to the first model we'll have a look at for the thunderstorms, we'll start on the UKV. Now you can see through this morning we have seen some heavy thundery showers decaying away across the southwest, and that's what's continuing through the rest of the morning and early afternoon as we saw the live radar. There is the possibility of a few isolated heavy showers in the east, but again not expecting too much. You can see there's thick cloud across northern or western areas. Could break up at times. This really is the decaying weather front we do have that did give some heavy rain in the north over the last couple of days. Now that's going to just be the sort of contrast to the north of that, cooler, fresher, but perhaps some sunnier weather coming into the south and east of that, sunnier but a lot more muggy. Through the rest of this afternoon, not looking like too much activity, but still a few showers across the south west. But as we head overnight into the early hours of the morning, we can start to see thunderstorms forming out in the channel around that 6-7 a.m. point. And this is where the main risk of thunderstorms comes. Look at that line of storms across the Channel Islands towards northern France explodes into action in a little matter of a couple of hours really there, and you can see it slowly heads northwards and initially bashes southwest England and South Wales. Some intense rainfall. Uncertainty exactly how much of this will be thunderstorms and how much of it will just be torrential rainfall. Regardless, we could still see the same impacts, and eventually the eastern extent of this does move northwards, and this is why I said there probably should be perhaps a precautionary warning issued further eastwards, because it does look fairly intense, but the UKV drops off the intensity of this eastern portion quite significantly. So that's the only reason why I could see at this stage the warning hasn't been extended further eastwards. But through the rest of the afternoon, that batch of very heavy rain moves northwards, but look what happens further westwards and northwards. We see a weather front slowly push in and really intensify. This is because warm air's moving northwards, but cool air's coming in off the Atlantic, and this big mishmash is going to create a lot of rainfall through Sunday evening. Now, through Sunday evening into the overnight hours, I have to watch this very carefully. You can see the remnants of those thunderstorms in the southwest start to develop into an actual big area of low pressure. Now, what this will do is start to bring some rotation towards the centre of the rainfall, and it will pep it up. Unlikely to stay as intense as it was further southwards, but will be more widespread. And behind that area of low pressure, or developing area of low pressure, look at this, batches of heavy thunderstorms breaking out. Again, it's uncertain they'll break out exactly how this is shown, but these rough areas will be the areas that will see those thunderstorms. And again, that's why I think perhaps the eastern areas could be issued a warning through tomorrow night into the early hours of Monday. And then through the rest of early hours of Monday, you can see those thunderstorms developing quite significantly in the east. And then look at all of this big areas of rainfall. So we've got the remnants of the thunderstorms in the southwest through Sunday morning, and then we've got a weather front coming in from the west, giving this whole big mishmash of rainfall, and eventually it all clears eastwards through Monday afternoon, with many areas seeing multiple hours of very heavy rain. I said the worst affected areas could see 10, 20, 30 millimetres or more if they're affected by thunderstorms. The best areas may only see 5 millimetres or so, but all areas are going to see some quite heavy rainfall at times, and eventually through Monday afternoon this thundery rain is going to clear eastwards. But it's a very, very brief respite. In from the west, we've got lots of showers moving in this fresher Atlantic air mass, and as we head into Tuesday, a weather front moves in, giving some quite miserable conditions for the south, lots of moderate rainfall, light to moderate rainfall, and eventually another big weather front moves in for Wednesday, and this sets the scene for more heavy rainfall and strong westerly winds as we go into a very unsettled spell of weather. weather. So you can see the next few days are going to be pretty intense. Again, it'll be impossible to say it will play out exactly like this, but it'll be pretty intense regardless, and it is looking likely that it's going to set the scene for a very unsettled next week. If you look at the max temperatures now, you can see Saturday. So today, temperatures peaking at 25, 26, maybe at 27, 28 or 29 is possible, and quite a lot of uncertainty depending on the cloud and shower activity. Into tomorrow, it's still fairly humid, so we could see a 22 or 23, but less likely to reach anything higher than that because of the cloud and rain. Into Monday, temperatures starting to drop quite significantly, 18, 19 at best in the southeast and 13 or 14 further northwards and westwards as much cooler conditions move in. And then as we head into Tuesday, 16, 17 at best in the east, 19 in the southwest as we see a bit of a warmer air mass move in, but it's really under rainfall, so it's not going to feel all too great. And Wednesday again could touch 20, 21. So real start towards autumn, and there you can see early parts of Thursday widely mid to high single digits as much cooler conditions start to move in. So autumn properly arriving next week. Temperatures still could be decent in a few spots, but we're not going to see anything remotely higher than sort of 20, 21 degrees beyond Sunday. And it's looking likely to be much more unsettled as well. The last thing I wanted to have a look at is just the mixed level Cape, just to show you why we're seeing the severe thunderstorms. We're not seeing them today because you can see the Cape is just off to our south, so thunderstorms developing, but as we move northwards they run out of energy and they decay away. But as we head through Saturday evening into Sunday, you see that Cape edges northwards and properly pushes in through much of Sunday. Uncertainty exactly the extent of the initial storms because the Cape is high, but nothing ridiculous yet because of some very high levels of Cape moving through late hours of Sunday into Monday, and that's where we could see those heavy thunderstorms triggered in the east. So I still do think a warning will be issued for that, but might not be issued until tomorrow morning, until we have more data, and eventually see all that Cape get shoved away by the cold front as we head into Monday. Now, if you look at the Rome run now for this, if you look at the convective overview, you can see heavy thundery showers in the southwest through this morning. Quite a bit more activity than we're actually seeing in reality at the moment, so Rome may be overdoing it a little bit. But as we head into tomorrow, thunderstorm band moves up from the south through the early hours of Sunday. You can see that developing here, more rainfall and heavy showers than the UKV had. Rome definitely a bit more intense. Those thunderstorms move in through much of the afternoon. Unfortunately, expires at 4 p.m. here. Can't go beyond that, so we can't see those thunderstorms developing through the rest of the afternoon. But you can start to see the hints of them developing over the channel. So your Rome is very intense, even more intense than the UKV, with some really widespread heavy rain and thundery activity. Now, if you look at the icon run here, again, you can see through much of today, heavy showers, but sort of decaying away through the afternoon. As we head into early hours of Sunday, that thunderstorm band forms, and as it heads northwards, loads of heavy rain widely, and then more heavy thundery activity through Sunday evening in the east into the early hours of Monday, and eventually that weather front sweeping it through again. Not as quite high resolution as the past two runs, but you see broadly a very similar pattern with lots of rainfall around. But if we do a look at what's going to be happening next week, you'll be able to see that it is going to be pretty unsettled indeed. Now, this latest GFS run hasn't fully come out yet, so we only have to look at it until day 10, but to be honest, anything beyond day 10 is normally wrong. So there really isn't a little point looking at it than just having a bit of fun, really. But you can see here, as we head into Monday, Tuesday, very strong westerly winds moving in, very unsettled conditions, and it remains very unsettled. But as we head towards day 10, that low never makes its way in, and instead, high pressure builds in. And actually, you can see it's around average, if not above average air masses. Temperature deviation, not great, but because the wind direction is coming from the south, it will be fairly warm and fairly decent under higher pressure. We would see a lot of rainfall around initially in this run, but it will be nowhere near as bad beyond that. And as we head into the longer range, you can see plenty of high pressure actually on this GFS run. Stark contrast to the GEM and the ECMWF. Now, the GEM produces low pressure early next week, like the GFS does. But instead of building high pressure towards day 10, it keeps those lows moving in off the Atlantic one by one with very intense rainfall, very strong winds. Look at those wind gusts. So the sustained winds here actually. and you can see those yellows indicating very strong winds spiralling around the low. Now finally, if we look at the ECMWF, this is the most lively run, I must say. Low pressure continues to move in off the Atlantic, very unsettled. And look at that, towards day 10, an extremely intense area of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. 940 millibars towards the centre of that low. I'm speechless. That is ridiculous. That can't come off. That's sort of major hurricane levels of pressure there. I highly doubt that would actually occur. But you can see it is coming from remnants of an ex-hurricane, so kind of cyclogenesis taking place there as that turns into a more traditional North Atlantic low. Completely ridiculous system. It is reducing its intensity as it moves northwards and eastwards across the UK, but where it does move in, if we just quickly have a look at those wind gusts towards the day 10 point, look at that ridiculous 190 kilometers per hour wind gusts. So we're looking at well in excess of 100 miles per hour wind gusts, probably more in tune with sort of 120, 130 miles per hour wind gusts, and sustained winds here of 141 kilometers per hour. Again, this is out to sea. The strongest winds may be only 100 kilometers per hour, impacting immediate coastal areas, but that is sustained winds in excess of 100 miles per hour, around 80, 90, 100 miles per hour. That is Cat 1, Cat 2, maybe even Cat 3 hurricane strength. So I highly doubt that would come off, but just showing you the bizarre model runs that is being produced at the moment. We have to keep a very close eye on this because it's day 10. I'm going to put a lot of uncertainty on this and say it's not going to happen. But the fact that we've actually seen this consecutive runs, if we actually go back to the midday run yesterday, we've actually had this for consecutive runs. Again, it's not the exact same sort of low there, but similar in terms of the wind gusts were high there. Again, 161 kilometre per hour wind gusts to the southern edge of this low. So 2 consecutive runs producing insane wind gusts that would, again, issue red warnings here. So we'll have to see how it does progress, but I don't think this is going to happen. But it is bizarre seeing this from the east of the WF. Just shows you what could and has the potential to occur, although a very low potential. Now, after you finish by looking at the ensembles, you can see generally we're sort of up and down, above and below average, looking at a little bit of a zonal sine wave developing there. So above average, below average, above average, below average, above average, and then a little bit of scatter in the longer term. Typical autumnal westerly pattern, or even wintry westerly pattern, where you're seeing cold air, warm air, oscillating away with plenty of rainfall. Sea level pressure is looking fairly low in the next week or so, but right in the extended range, day 10 beyond, perhaps some higher pressure moving in. So that's definitely what the GFS is suggesting more. And the 2 metre temperatures are looking poor at times, especially in around 5 to 7 days' time, maybe only mid-teens under a lot of that heavy rainfall. And finally, the eastern Earth ensembles, very similar. Again, slight differences in the exact timings of the low pressure and the cold and warm air masses, but zonal sine wave looking quite likely here as well over the next week, with lots of heavy rain. And finally, the 2 metre temperatures pretty poor at times, and the sea level pressure is very low at times over the next week to 10 days before rising slightly in the longer term. So perhaps a few good indications for the extended range, but at the moment, the short term to even medium term isn't looking good. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe if you're new and stay safe in the thunderstorms and heavy rain over the next couple of days. Really do pray that ECMWF, or those last couple of ECMWF runs, are wrong, as we would see historic and extremely disruptive winds and probably rainfall as well if that came off. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, and of course I'll keep you updated over the next couple of